Hey everybody, it's Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 18th day of May 2020. Oh my goodness, I remember this day well. 40 years ago, we Mount St. Helens blew. We were living in Beaverton at the time, and we didn't see the actual eruption, but we saw the after effects, of course, and experienced all of that. It was like there's so much ash that there was in Beaverton where we live, that there was, you know how in the wintertime when they push up the snow into piles in grocery store parking lots? Well, that's what it was like. We had piles that big of ash in parking lots, just like little, like massive ash piles in lieu of massive snow piles in grocery store parking lots. It was amazing. You had to do like you're doing now. You had to wear a mask if you were out. I was pregnant at the time, so I definitely had to. I was still working, and eventually I would stop working prior to my oldest being born because I got vertigo, and they were concerned that I was, gonna fall, and that was not gonna be good. And so eventually I just stayed home till the end of the pregnancy. But at that time, we were still out. I was still out and about and working and everything, and so I had to wear a mask, and we had to put extra filters around our car air filters, and we just had to all take extra precautions just so our cars would work. But it's just interesting that here on this anniversary we're still doing that. We're wearing masks and gloves and protecting ourselves from a virus that we don't really know. Although I know that folks, the scientists, know a whole lot about it. We don't have a vaccine yet, and who knows when that's going to come, and the therapeutics are still, up in the air, and so we're all just still taking precautions, and it's just sort of, we've come full circle on today with it for a different reason, of course, but still, I know Yakima up in Washington got just inundated. I can remember news reports seeing you couldn't see. It was like a whiteout, and it was awful. I mean, they had like 3 foot of ash everywhere. It was horrible. The wind blew it in their direction, and it was really bad. So here we are 40 years later, and things are still erupting around us, aren't they? In this 22 year of profound soul level change. We have a 9 energy today, and it's all about endings and completions. So if you feel like something is coming to a conclusion, maybe you're getting better if you're ill, or maybe some of the restrictions for you are loosening. Maybe you're going back to work. You're going to have to do that, of course, safely. I really hope that going forward, people see the consequences of not doing so, and not keep this in the position that it's been in, where it's an us versus them experience, or a sign of weakness to try to protect yourself from the virus. Just respect everybody's boundaries, respect everybody's space, and respect everyone's choice. And I'm hoping that those that are choosing to ignore all of this find their way back to awareness quickly. There's a lot going on in the chart today, the astrological chart, that I wanted to talk about, not so much specifically, but we have a lot of stuff in retrograde, and we kind of talked about that last week. We've got quite a bit. Juno, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and Pallas are all in retrograde. And whenever anything goes into retrograde, instead of thinking, assessing, outward kinds of external things, think about it in terms of inward expansion and inward reflection and inward change, inward reevaluation. With Juno in the 4th house of Libra, we're going to be reassessing foundation with respect to partnerships. And that seems to be the theme throughout all of this. All of the retrograde stuff has to do with partnerships and interactions with others. Realistically, all of the things that we deal with on our daily lives, what all of it looks like, where we live, what these bodies look like that we inhabit, all of that is the illusory part of the experience. What is not illusory is how we interact with one another. Are we doing that from the standpoint of ego, or are we doing that from the standpoint of spirit? Do we understand that we're really spirit inhabiting these bodies, that there's nothing to work our way back to, in terms of doing good deeds and all of that, that this is about understanding simply who we are as expressions of the Creator. So, again, we can either express ourselves from the standpoint of the Creator, from that standpoint of spirit, or we can do it from the standpoint of ego. And if we do it from ego, well, sometimes that doesn't work out very well. And I think that what all of these planets are suggesting, Pluto, 7th house Capricorn, allow the transformation to happen and look forward to rebuilding relationships with others. Saturn, 8th house Aquarius, we're dealing with issues, restructuring and reevaluating issues of joint enterprise, where we really put our time and effort with someone else or a group of someone else's. We're exploring intimacy and group involvement in this 8th house of Aquarius. We need to basically restructure how we see everything, restructure perceptions. Saturn slows everything down, and it's definitely doing that now. But with respect to how we perceive things, Jupiter, 7th house Capricorn, just like Pluto, interchange, reevaluation, expansion with respect to relationships. In other words, where we put our focus, where we spend our time, and who we're spending it with. Is it something that's actually going to keep us alive and safe, or is it something that could jeopardize that? So maybe we're starting to rethink some of that and where we put our alliances and who we put them with. Venus, rethink balance, harmony, partnerships, what we value and love, where we feel connected. Venus is in the 12th house of Gemini with this retrograde, and at least right at this moment. Pallas, 8th house Aquarius, also in its retrograde, reassessing fundamental understanding of life, embrace out-of-the-box thinking and follow intuition. So I think you can see that there's an energetic flow that's about reevaluation and reassessment and trying to figure out just where are we really going to achieve the best success or the best outcome. And I think that if we are fighting against science and truth and understanding of what this virus is, irrespective of how you might think it got here, we can deal with that later. Keep doing your research, do whatever you want to do there in that regard. But for the love of all that is holy, please wear a mask and gloves when you're out and about. Please continue to observe the 6-foot distance and maybe even more. Please understand that children are not exempt from this, and protect your children. I mean, it just, how you function out in the world is going to impact everyone at home. So, I don't know. I guess think about it from that standpoint. Start reevaluating. Am I really going to protect my kids, if you're a parent, by doing this, by not wearing protection? Are they going to be impacted by this? And do we really need to have that happen to show us that? It's like, oh, well, if it hasn't happened to me, then it doesn't exist. Well, no, that's not true. So that's the whole point of it. Do we want to think in terms of just getting through this together, and then we'll figure things out? But for now, let's just err on the side of caution. I wanted to do something different here before we get started with the reading. Not just with this, I wanted to quickly go over what the esoteric influences are for today. I do an esoteric influences for the week. And so I thought I would just do that really quickly. We have a 9 energy today, so something may be coming to an end. Situation or perceptions may be coming to a conclusion or perhaps shifting. And again, the retrograde planets are going to help us with that. From the human design section of it, though, the I Ching section of it, the channel of awareness is active all week, suggesting that we're going to be balancing the impulse to overcome limitation with a greater understanding and acceptance of its impact. So, yeah, we're we're staying home and staying safe and staying protected. But if we don't, we know what the impact is going to be, or at least many of us do. Others are still coming to terms with that. But hopefully, this reevaluation period with everything in retrograde will assist them in that process. The rune for today is Thursaz. Break through frustrations that may occur by controlling impulsive behavior. Stand against opposition that isn't in service to safety and protection. That's what you're going to want to do today. The moon is in Aries, currently in the 10th house, but that's going to change every 2 hours. So security is found in challenging oneself, particularly in the workplace. But, if that's a creative situation at home or what have you, just focus on your work and focus on getting things done today. But have patience. Moon semi-square sun is energy levels may be low or funky or something, and so avoid conflict with others because things could just simply be a matter of timing right now. Just things aren't really kind of out of kilter. Anytime the moon aspects the sun, you just never know. And so anyway, sextile Mercury, ideas are going to flow well, and also with clarity. You'll be clear in your expression. Compassion's also high, so is self-assertion. But be sure, to listen well. Anytime moon is aspecting Mercury, you want to make sure you're listening as well as communicating effectively. You also want to listen effectively as well. So let's see if there was anything else here that we needed to say about the Pluto, 7th house Capricorn, retrograde, reevaluate partnerships and associations. Explore deeper aspects, again, of how we interact with others. Integrity is important. And I guess I just think that realigns well with the stuff that's in retrograde right now. Pluto is in retrograde. I think that we just need to be taking a real close look at how we perceive things and how we view things, and realize that right now this is, for the foreseeable future, a situation we're all going to be contending with, and it's going to manifest itself in varying ways. As the country opens up, you may see things spike. I think it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to see things spike. How much will be dependent upon how well they protect everybody in the process as it's happening. Those places that don't will likely see bigger spikes. I mean, that's just how it seems to be going. So just take that to heart and make your decisions appropriately. So, all right, let's go ahead then and get started on the reading. I'm going to do 3 cards. If you haven't been here before, thank you so much for coming by and click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. If you're back, thank you. I appreciate everybody who comes here and takes part in this. We're just here trying to understand our lives a little bit better and the different influences that might help us do that. And so we're going to look at the cards and then the runes, and we'll do a rune from the Elder Futhark, and then we'll close out with a geomancy rune. And so let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. If we need more, we'll add them. But if not, I'm going to take the 13th one each time for randomness sake. So let's get started. Well, I haven't had this one in a while. Betrayal. The 3 of Swords. We picked up our bees Saturday. We bought 3 nukes because our bees didn't survive again. We're just going to start treating. We've been trying to do it naturally, and it's just not working. We started using oxalic acid last year at the end of the season. We didn't do it during the middle because you really can't when there's brood in there and all that. So we're going to do the formic acid in April, or not April, but August, and then we'll treat again with oxalic acid in the fall. And hopefully we'll be able to keep hives running. I don't know. But it was cool. We let them sit for a day, and then we installed them yesterday and in their homes where they're going to be, and it's very cool. It's just not right when the bees aren't here. So everything is good now. We can go on with our lives. It's like our whole life is determined as to what day are we getting the bees. Everything revolves around that. So let's do another card. Well, the 8 of Swords. So right now we're talking about some issues with intellect. And the Swords is the air element. And so you're talking intellect, reason, balance, justice, fairness. Apparently, there's some betrayal going on. Whether or not this is going to seem personal or whether or not it's going to seem collective. We've been getting a lot of major cards lately, and so I've been interpreting it to meaning I've been interpreting at it as soul types of experiences, so more collective messages, and so more geared toward what's happening to all of us collectively right now, as opposed to what's happening in our personal lives. Although, they can certainly be viewed from that perspective as well, and probably should be. Well, we have one major today, the Hierophant. I think what we're going to do is we're going to put the Hierophant in the middle and use the Hierophant because it's a major card. I'm going to use it as a significator or as a focal point. The Hierophant is about the divine message. Of course, it's depicted in terms of the priest, and then those are his monks down below him, sort of, prostrate at his feet, basically. 5 is a number of change, protection, safety. He sits between two pillars, which is a recurrent theme in tarot. We're talking the middle path, typically. We see the keys of knowledge down below. We see 3 crosses. There's actually 5 because there's 2 more on his feet. There's triple aspects embedded in his crown. You've got 3 levels. You see 3 tips at the top, 3 ticks on the side of his scepter, technically holding up 2 fingers, although a thumb is involved. But you could look at it as 5 there. But basically what we're talking about with the Hierophant is we're talking about idealism, mastery, hidden knowledge, divine wisdom, mercy. So I think that we're going to take it from the mercy standpoint, given what's going on here. Perhaps it's the notion of having mercy on the self, not only on the self, but also on others here. And again, I think that we can look at this in terms of I can tell you, just from my own perspective, it's difficult to, because I'm in the let's wear a mask crowd. Let's stay protected. That's, if you've been coming here, that. If you've been reading anything I write, that. And I guess in a way I feel those that don't, it's a betrayal. It's a betrayal of my own safety. It's a betrayal of innocence, and trust. The masks that we make for ourselves are not N95 masks, and they're never going to protect us the way an N95 will. However, if both parties that are within a distance from one another, if they both had them on, it would reduce the chances of getting the virus massively. It might not protect you completely, but it will certainly get you through another day, perhaps. So why wouldn't you do it? And for me, at my age, and given that I used to have a really compromised immune system, and I don't know that it still isn't, to a certain extent, once you become as ill as I was, even though it's doing better considerably, is it better enough to survive something like this if I were to get it? So when someone comes up near me without a mask on, I have to tell you, I do feel betrayed by them. Now, we can look at this as we all have fundamental choice here. We all have individual choice. We can do what we want. But should we want to do that? So you have to ask yourself, what's going on in the minds of someone who are they're not protecting themselves? We went to the store on Saturday not Saturday, it was Sunday. And I remember this older man, at least our age, maybe older, tall, looking at us up at the check stand. He was standing out after he was done. We were behind him. He kept looking at us, and he wasn't wearing a mask, and we were, you know. So is that, why was he looking at us? Is he because he's feeling guilty? What's the deal? You know, so in a sense, if we're dealing with knowledge, we can think of the knowledge in terms of spirit. Well, we can think of it in terms of authority. And who's the authority right now? Well, it's the scientists. Now, people can decide, oh, we aren't going to listen to scientists. We aren't going to listen to anything. It's all a big conspiracy. Well, you could be right, but at this juncture, I would like to proceed along the lines that you're not. Because if you're not, then you put everyone at risk with that belief structure. And if you're right, then we protected ourselves for nothing. But we protected ourselves. So, you know, no harm, no foul, basically. So what? See, that's the thing. Why are people coming up to people protected, yelling at them for doing so? Because that's happening now in this country. Why ever would you do that to somebody who just wants to feel safe? Calling them names, all of that. It's a betrayal. Instead of mind, body, spirit being in balance, it's piercing the heart of everyone. 3 is about that. It's about the triplicity of structure of mother, father, and child, basically, right? That then begins the rest of the foundations of life. And here it's, you know, you see the clouds raining behind, and you see betrayal. You see 2 influences there, the 2 swords behind, the single one in the center. Sometimes this is interpreted as gossip. But make no mistake about it, no matter how you want to view it, it's still a betrayal of things happening behind the scenes to prevent our happiness and our security and our peace, and in this case, our health. With the federal government's response, you know, leaving it in the hands of a son-in-law who may be more clueless than his father-in-law, which I wasn't sure that could even be possible, but evidently. But they're leaving it, they're incompetent to begin with, and then they give it to someone who's even more. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? He can't fix this. He decided that they weren't going to get any supplies together or talk about it, and convinced his father-in-law of it. And so therefore, we didn't really start dealing with this until sometime in March. Over 2 months after they knew. Heck, they knew back in what? I think they started getting wind of it back in October. Definitely by November. But we're going to lie, right? Betray. So, the 8 of Swords comes into play. You know, this is really an amazing card, if you think about it, because either she's turning her back to the noise and the chaos of other people and the lies and the deception that's been going on around her, which we could certainly interpret that way right now, couldn't we? She's blindfolded, she's bound. You see the conflict below her represented by the soppy sand that's red, you know, and so that indicates something has happened, you know, something volatile maybe. We see the castle up on the hill. She's turned her back on everything, either because she's been so betrayed by those she trusted, either friends, neighbors. I mean, I see people on Twitter. I have a friend on Twitter talks about occasionally what's going on next door. And you see, it's a weird relationship because, you know, there's interaction there that's positive, but then there's also interaction there that's so unsafe that, you know, it's all my friend on Twitter can do, basically, to figure out how do you navigate through this. Because, you know, you have neighbors and you want to still have neighbors when you're done through all of this, when all of this is finished. But at the same time, you want to get to the finish. And so she's having to figure this out. In a sense, she's being betrayed. And now she's having to turn her back on everything to try to figure this out on her own. Figure out some savvy way to not endanger herself further by people that don't want to be safe and then want to get in your face about it, right? Because that's happening now too. You get people that come into stores that are supposed to wear masks. They don't. They get told to get out or whatever, get a mask on, come back later when you got one or whatever. Go back to your car, get your mask, whatever they're saying. One old guy responded by wiping his nose on the store worker's sleeve. So again, we're dealing with weird stuff, right? Excuse me. Oh, the juniper pollen is just crazy out there. And I was out for quite a bit yesterday cleaning hives and getting ready to put the bees in their new homes and all of that. And so, oh my God, I have this amazing, not a nuke, but I had a top box on it that was filled with honey. It was a honey super. And they had cross-combed it. Instead of going the way they're supposed to on their frames, they went this way. It's incredible. I'm going to try and do around the edges and see if I can't drop it out as a unit, because there's no way I'm going to be able to get it out of there. I can't lift frames out to then cut the comb off so I can use it for, salves and things like that, because it's clean. They moved all the honey down into the one below, and then they just didn't make it through the winter. But basically, there's no honey in it, but it's probably tinged with it. So I'm going to use it in different salves and things that I need to thicken. But I'm going to try to drop it out. If I can do that, I'm going to take a picture of it and show it to you, or maybe video it or something and show it to you guys so you can see what it looks like. It's very cool. But anyway, this is what we're dealing with here. The eight is considered a number of strength. It's also considered a number of harmony that's greater than simply the understanding of polarity. We begin at the 2, and that's what we're doing there. We're going to understand polarity both within and without, usually with just one other person. So, just think partnership there. And then with the 4, we're going to establish a more familial type of a structure. And so it's going to get a little more involved. So think the family structure there. So the reciprocity that happens within that 4-person structure, mom, dad, and the kids, or whatever your family looks like. I'm just using that as an example. It can be mom, and the kids, or dad, and the kids. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that you have a family structure with the 4. With the 6, you start sharing that with the community. You start becoming more community minded. You're going to share your abundance with others. Maybe you share your garden, the extra stuff you have from your garden. Maybe you have something you can share your time with a neighbor who needs some help with something. So there you start to see that happening. With the 8, though, now you're looking at the greater leader. You think the god Tyr, think the rune Tiwaz in the Elder Futhark. We're talking about the ability to be a leader on behalf of others, to see the bigger picture, and in this case, to be the spiritual warrior within and have the courage to turn your back on all of the nonsense that's going on and all of the chaos. Shut it all out and allow spirit to inform your way forward. We have to listen to the scientists on this. There may be the knowledge will likely be evolving. What they think now, as mutations happen, may change to something else, whereas they think, okay, we might be all right here and we know this about it here. There could be some outlier that comes in and blows it all out of the water. We have to have patience right now and allow for that process to unfold. Otherwise, I don't know how we're ever going to have a true understanding of what's going on, okay? So we have 8 and 5 is 13, so that's a 4, and 3 is then 7. So we're looking at a balance, aren't we? We're looking at striking a balance between what we should do and what we want to do. If we can find a way to do what we want to do safely, then there's your balance. If they open the beaches, then, wear a mask, stay away from people. Find a way to do what you want to do that's safe. Who knows? We could be dealing with this for a long time, years. We don't know. So get with the program now so that you know what to do. They're saying in the winter it could be even worse. So if that's the case, we have to be prepared for this. Pay attention to what we're doing now, and we will be. We'll get through it. People don't go out so much in the winter anyway if you've got inclement weather. So, we hunker down in the winter here now that we've got our snowblower. We can actually get out if we want to, but we have an 800-foot driveway, so we kind of needed one. Took us, I don't know, almost 40 years to buy one, but we finally did. But here we have Degas. 23rd rune of the Elder Futhark, we're talking change. It's a 5 energy. So change, safety, protection. I'm going to draw this one out for you. It's the notion of where where energy at its saturation, and this is not my interpretation, it's someone else's. Energy at its saturation point becomes its opposite. So you can think of it as the dawning of a new day, the dawning of new expression, the dawning of new perception, where we come into a more integrated balance with other people. I'll show you what I mean by that. Here is the rune itself. It looks like a bow tie. But let's talk about what comprises it, the other runes that comprise it. Very often, unless you're talking Isa or something like that, a very, very simple rune, you can actually see other runes contained within it. So most of these runes, in reality, are bind runes, okay? And with each, you could just take one as a bind rune and invoke that energy in a magical working, and there's your rune magic. You don't actually have to create a bind rune in that regard. You wouldn't have to with Degas at all. Here you basically have Gebo in the center, which is balanced energy exchanged with others, okay? On the ends, you're terminating that with Isa, the Norn rune for the present moment, freezing things into place, transmuting ego into spirit by exercising a type of will development that basically is invoked by spirit. But you see, you have, basically spirit presence terminating each end of the balanced energy exchange with others. But look at what's contained within Gebo. It's kin as the torch or the light of spirit in all directions, expressed outward. So we're expressing the light of spirit in alignment with that essence. We're fully aligned in our source presence as we then embrace something new together in harmony, think the 8. Oops, I'm sorry, little earthquake there. I just hit my laptop with I have it up higher so that it's a wide angle lens on the camera, but I have it up higher. And so if I touch it, it moves, unfortunately. So I hit it with my pen. I'm sorry. But in any event here, let me get this out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and do the Geomancy rune. Looks like we've got a single dot for fire. Oh, well, okay. That's interesting. We have Carcer for today. Now, there's 3 runes in geomancy where it's said by geomancers of old, who I think were just, not very, I don't think they were brave. I really don't. I don't think they were brave at all. They weren't witches, clearly. So anyway, the magicians of old who did geomancy, the astrologers of old who did geomancy as well. Carcer is the opposite of conjunctio. Carcer, Rubeus, and Cauda Draconis are considered too evil to continue. So if they were doing this, they would be destroying everything, running out of the room, waving their arms, going, oh my gosh, don't demons, don't come in, please. But Carcer really is about self-imprisonment, and it really reflects the 8 of Swords. I mean, it's unbelievable I got this, really. It's really emphasizing that the last thing we want to do is engage in any self-imprisonment. And I'm going to tell you right now, staying safe at home is not self-imprisonment. It's staying safe. It's not being stuck. It's staying safe. Again, being stuck at home, being safe at home. Two different images, right? Two different perceptions. You're coming from two different mindsets when you think about it, right? And so we want to avoid the notion of self-imprisonment. If we are aligning with people that want to keep us in the no mask crowd, okay, we're going to deny this is happening. We're going to see this as a conspiracy. We're going to see this as nothing at all. If you want to be there, you're going to experience or you may, I won't say you're going to, but you may experience a very different type of self-imprisonment than those of us who are choosing to stay safe. Now, you can look at it as a form of self-imprisonment to choose to stay safe because you're choosing to narrow what you do. You're choosing to narrow your experiences. So you could, think of yourself. I live on 5 acres. I have anywhere from 7.5 to 8 foot fencing around the whole property. I have my property divided into 2 pieces. There is an 8-foot game fence that does that. We did all that to keep the deer off the property. We also did it because we have locked gates because we have neighbors who trespass and do things on our property or just trespass on our property. I don't know about you, but that feels odd when you've got 5 acres and you got people you don't necessarily know they're there. So we've got a compound area of roughly 2 acres and a pasture area of roughly 3, give or take. And if you get down into the compound, it's so park-like that we may not know you're there, right? So we keep things locked for a reason, because we don't want someone unexpected on the property that we don't know is there, because why are you there, right? So that's what we live behind. So in a sense, we've enclosed ourselves in a way that theoretically should keep us safe. Now, we discovered that it wasn't going to when someone from the neighborhood decided to trespass, come 600 foot into the property, not into the other compound, not into the compound, but 500 foot down and 100 foot in, no mask, to talk to us. We still don't know why. Has something to do with bees, but no emergency, nothing she needed from us. Just talking. We don't know the woman. If we've seen her, we don't remember, right? So again, we're thinking about the type of boundaries we want to put around ourselves today. Do we want to do it informed by spirit and the scientists, or do we want to listen to people that don't have our best interests at heart, that the government's saying, oh yeah, just open up all the businesses. Without the testing, without the PPE supplies, without the protection necessary to make that a successful experience, they don't care. So ask yourself why. What's the true betrayal here? Is it the betrayal of just absolute ineptness and stupidity, or is it betrayal by design? That's the other question we have to answer, because as far as I'm concerned, it's by design. That's how I see it. I don't know how you see it. You can see it any way you want to, but I think this is being done on purpose. I'm not exactly certain what the final outcome will be or what the reasoning for it is, but it's nothing that's positive. It's all nefarious. It's all in service to something else. So why are we being sacrificed is what I'm asking. So turn your back on the chaos. Find your own center. Find your own truth here. Listen to the scientists. And allow one perception to end that's no longer serving you, and embrace something new that does. And keep yourself safe. So anyway, I think that's all I've got. Again, we're really looking at a lot of reevaluation with everything in retrograde. I mean, how many planets is that? It's like 5, 6. The nodes are always in retrograde. They're always considered in retrograde, so we don't count those. But 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 planets. Planetary bodies are in retrograde. Make that work for you. Make it work to realign your perceptions. Make sure that you're You're looking at what your relationships are and how they function, and are they really in service to a greater good, or are they in service to something that's going to be more of a betrayal than anything else? So in any event, thanks so much for coming by and spending this time with me, and come back tomorrow. And check out my blog over at Stepping Aside. It's imsteppingaside.com is the web address. You'll see links to everything where I am underneath this video. Plus, there's a recipe for homemade hand sanitizer and homemade bleach solution. I got the bleach solution, I don't know, off a government website, one of them. I don't know if it was CDC or EPA. It could have been FDA. I don't know. One of the three-letter places that are like, it was one of the three. I found it there. Anyway, so that's there. Because if you run out of alcohol, you're going to have some way to clean stuff. So, and if you're not just using soap and water, which you can also do, sometimes it's easier to have like a solution you spray. So if you're running out of alcohol and you don't know how to make it, then you have to use something else that's going to be bleach. So anyway, have a great day, and come back tomorrow. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.